God bless the faithful and the obedient. This is Sister Liberty, and I'm back with another teaching for you. Yes, so we are discussing today, what if you are the problem? And I know that can be very challenging and very hard to accept and receive, because it can be more easier to point the finger. It can be more easier to cast the blame on someone else rather than taking ownership, rather than taking responsibility, rather than becoming the solution. Although we understand and we know that Jesus is the answer. What if you were able to humble yourself? You were willing to humble yourself and to get over you. So thinking about Cain. So Cain and Abel. Cain, he killed his brother because he was jealous of his brother. God did not respect Cain or his offering. And instead of Cain dealing with himself and addressing the things in his heart, he wanted God to pretty much feel bad for him. Cain played a victim. Sometimes in life, we get ourselves into circumstances, we make bad decisions, and when the consequences come about, it's hard for us to be honest and say, the reason why I am in this situation is because I made that decision over there, because I said that to that person, because I did that over there. The reason why I am where I am today is because of whatever decisions that I made years ago. And so with Cain, we can find ourselves being like that throughout life, putting the blame on others, playing victim, wanting God to lower the standards for us instead of us putting forth effort, instead of us addressing what's on the inside, instead of us addressing the fact that we make wrong decisions. We would rather God change our circumstance. We would rather God change his mind, and that can be so dangerous. So it can be dangerous when we overlook the fact that the issue is us. Everybody else can be the problem. Everybody else can be the reason why we do what we do. But what about the fact that it is true that it starts with you? It starts with you. And that can be hard sometimes, because when we are pointing the fingers back on us, that can be hard. Self-scrutiny is hard. It's shameful, because what you are saying is that you are the issue. You are the problem. And that can be very challenging, but that takes a humble person to look in the mirror and deal with the person in the mirror. Start with the person in the mirror. That is true. That is true. I'm not saying to go and sing a song or go and look up anything, but it is true that it starts with you. It is true that you have to be willing to make the necessary moves to get the freedom that you need. I like the story of Cain and Abel because there's so much to pull from that. God told Cain, if you do well, if you shift in your mind and in your heart, if you let go of your old perspective and take on the right perspective, he told Cain, will you not be accepted? I will respect you. I will accept you. I will receive you. I'll promote you. I'll bless you. I'll rain down my favor on your life if you choose to lay down your perspective and take on mine, because the way you are navigating through life is the wrong way. The perspective that you have, the insight that you have, your understanding, your knowledge that you have is keeping you from going up, is keeping you from elevating, from making a forward movement. And many times we can find ourselves at this roadblock. We can find ourselves at that crossroad, not knowing what to do and where to go. And the reason for that is our unwillingness to deal with self. That's hard, because that means that I have to point the fingers back at me. That means that I have to, be honest about what's in my heart. Everybody doesn't want to be honest about what's in their heart and what's in their minds, because most people are embarrassed and ashamed about what they do and how they really feel on the inside. And so to start with me, to accept the fact that, man, maybe I am the problem. Maybe the problem is me. Maybe my issue isn't everyone else. When a person can start there, then they can begin to have a clear vision, a clear perspective, a clear view on life in the direction that their life is supposed to be going in. But when I can't see that I am the problem and everyone else is the issue, then that will keep me in a victim's place. That will keep me with a victim's mentality. So let's dive deeper into what that can look like, because you may want to know, Sister Liberty, how do I know if I am the problem? How do I know if I'm trying to cast the problem onto others? How do I know if I'm trying to play the blame game? So if I am someone, if I'm always finding myself in these difficult situations as a result of my decisions, so each and every one of us, we spend the most time with ourselves. We hear from ourselves the most, and we are with ourselves 24/7. You do the most things with you. So you know you more than anyone knows you apart from God. God knows you more than you know you. He made you. He designed you. But apart from that, you know you better than anybody else. So it's easier to lie to self. It's easier to lie to you. It's easier to convince you. It's easier for you to get yourself to believe something that's not true. So when we find ourselves in difficult circumstances, in difficult situations, and maybe because we decided we were not going to apologize to that person. I'll make it very simple, Fisher Price. Maybe we were unwilling to tell the truth to that person. Maybe we lied to that person to protect ourselves. Instead of us telling the truth, instead of us being the bigger person, we wanted to lie to protect us. All of the things we are fighting through life is the sin that's not just on the outside, but the sin that's on the inside, the effects of sin, the stains of sin that are within us, because we were all born and shaped into iniquity. And so everything doesn't have to be taught. Some things are taught. No one has to teach you to lie necessarily. No one has to teach you how to be angry. No one has to teach you how to be prideful. Those things are in you. You pick those things up. And so it's natural for us to protect ourselves. It's natural for us to defend ourselves. It's in us to survive. And so you're going to do what's in you to do at all costs, even if that means you have to lie to cover you and to protect you, even if that means you have to pretend to be something that you're not. And as a result of covering yourself, as a result of lying, because you want to protect you, or you want to present yourself in the eyes of others to look like something that you're not, you're willing to do all kinds of bad things. You're willing to compromise. You're willing to lie. You're willing to steal. You're willing to kill. You're willing to play victim, because people have hurt you. People have rejected you. People have neglected you. People have let you down. And as a result of going through those experiences, you've taken on certain perspectives and certain beliefs, and that has led you to making the decisions that you make. You are someone, you don't make very good decisions. You're not wise with your finances. You're not wise with your relationships. Maybe you are someone, you seem to always be burning bridges with people, or you seem to push those who are actually trying to really love you. You seem to push them away. Not that you're doing it necessarily on purpose, but it's just in you because of your experiences, because of the trauma, because of things that you went through. You can't help but to keep messing up relationships. And you've taken on a mindset that says, well, people have hurt me. And because people have hurt me, I have to put up these walls and I have to keep people out. I have to keep people away. But you don't realize that it's really hurting you, especially when God is allowing for you to have genuine, sincere people in your life That can be hard when you are fighting on the inside. That can be hard when there's a whole war going on the inside. Not only, is there a war going on the outside, but there's a whole nother war going on the inside, and I have to see that for what it is. I have to understand the fact that, as a human, I have problems. As a human, you have problems. You have problems, and you need to respect the fact that unless you deal with you, unless you address you, unless you point the fingers back at you, then you will never grow. You will never come out of that state of a victim. And I'm telling you this through experience. I lived as a victim for a long time because I thought that was the answer. I thought that was the solution. I thought that blaming other people was my real issue. I was one of those who would say, well, I'm this way because of this. I would make excuses for my bad decision making. And many of you make excuses for the reason as to why you do what you do, why you do these kinds of things. Why do you do these kinds of things? Why do you think the way that you think? Why do you believe what you believe? Because the reality is, all of our perspectives that we got from the world is wrong. We were taught things that were not right, that were not good, that were not true. And unless we lay those perspectives down, unless we lay down our knowledge of the world, our view of the world, our view about life and what we think life should be and how we think life should look, unless we lay those things down and humble ourselves and submit to God, then we will always remain at a place of bondage. We will always remain a victim of the enemy. You can remain a victim, but then you'll be given over to sin. You'll be given over to that thing that you were unwilling to let go of because you like the thought of being a victim, because you like when people feel pity for you. I know because I used to be there. I liked the feeling of people feeling bad for me. Oh man, that person feels bad for me. I like the attention that this brings. I like the affirmation. I like the pats on the back. I like the rubs and the hugs. I like that feeling. I love that feeling. But on the inside, there was still a lack of peace. There was still a lack of contentment. There was no stability. There was no real joy there, because the real issue was me. It wasn't the fact that people did things to me. And that's the reality. You cannot help what others do, but you can help what you do. You get to decide, how are you going to allow this to affect you? Was the pain real? Yes. Is the scar there? Yes. And hopefully you are at a place where you have position yourself for God to heal you and to remove those scars, because He does remove and erase trauma. He does heal and remove experiences. But maybe you have physical scars. It's more so what I'm meaning. Maybe you have physical scars. Maybe you have like actual marks and beatings on your body that says, no, this really happened. And so maybe the pain for you was real. Maybe the situation for you was real. That really happened. And sometimes life can just be really messed up, meaning there are people who can go through some really, really bad things, and it can scar them. It can really mess them up. But there's a greater power. There's a greater truth, a higher truth, and that's Jesus Christ. He can heal you. He can make you free. He can erase the years and the memories that has been stored in your body, the senses, the things that trigger those memories, the things that trigger those experiences. He can eliminate those. He can resolve every issue, every problem. He is the problem solver. And as you allow God to be your solution, the answer to your problems, then He will make you a problem solver. He'll make you a solution. You will be a solution. You will be a resolution. Yeah, to the problems of this life, to someone else's problem. Maybe you'll become someone's answered prayer. You don't know. But that's why we got to deal with the problem. And that's why we have to be honest enough to know where it starts. Does it start with that person being the one to change first? Does it start with that person being the one to apologize first, being the one to come clean first, being the one to acknowledge that they were the one wrong and they were the ones who messed it up, they were the ones who initiated it? Does it start with them? No. No, because what if that person never comes back and apologizes to you? What if that person never comes back and admit that they were wrong? What if that person never says that they were the reason and that they are the reason that you turned out to be the way that you turned out? What if they never come out and say that they were the ones who messed up your life? What if they never come out and say they were the ones who touched you? They were the ones who beat you. They were the ones who tore you down. They were the one who took from you, who stole from you. What if they never come to that place? I had to reckon with that. I had to come to that place in my life where, you're tired of being sick and tired. You have to be tired of being sick and tired. I was tired of being sick and tired of playing victim and casting the issue, casting their responsibility on someone else, wanting that person or these individuals to make the first move. I had to reckon with the fact that, man, if they never come clean, if they never step to the plate, if they never confess what they've done or what they said, am I going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? I need to know. I need to know me. I need to understand what's going on with me and not just sweep things under the rug thinking that, well, maybe one day I'll have closure. Maybe one day I'll have justice. If you never deal, and again, I know sometimes it can be painful. If you never deal with the problem, if you never deal with the root cause, then you will never get the breakthrough that you need. You'll never get the change that you need. And you'll just continue living life trying to maneuver your way around the issue, trying to maneuver your way around the problem, learning how to find other cope mechanisms. Yeah, people are doing that. People are doing that. And, I was showing my son how, people's lives are hard. We were out yesterday and I was going through a drive-through line and I pulled up first, but this other vehicle came from another direction and just, cut in front of me. And I said to my son, I said, you know what? I'm going to let this person go. I said, number one, I'm a son of God and it's expected of me to display a life of what I am. I am a son of God. I am a Christian. And so I am obligated to be an example. I am obligated to make the first move as a son of God. I represent Christ. And God expects that of me because to whom much is given, much is required. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to let this person go first because I don't know what kind of day they're having. I don't know if they're in a rush. I don't know what they have going on. And then the person pulled out a cigarette. And I said, you see, this person is stressed. This person is stressed. And my son, he began to ask questions, why do people smoke cigarettes? And I said, well, people smoke cigarettes. I always use moments like that as a moment to testify and to preach to my son. That's why sometimes I enjoy going outside of my home so that those moments of reality can be teachable, because sometimes it's one thing to talk to someone, but it's another thing when they can see it firsthand. They can see it playing out right in front of them. Like, wow, what my mom has been talking to me about is real, a reality. And so I told him, I said, people smoke cigarettes because they're stressed about life. They have problems. They have issues in life. I said, however, them smoking that cigarette isn't good for them because it does more damage than good. It does more harm than good. And he says, well, why do they do it? I said, they do it because people don't have God. People don't want God. People don't want Jesus, but they want a way out of their circumstances and out of their life situation. They want a way out. They want a moment to not think about their problems, although their problems are there. And so they're gonna smoke. They're gonna do these things because the world is messed up. The world is messed up. The world has problems. People have problems. And so you can't learn to just maneuver your way around the problem. You have to, at some point, address the elephant in the room. And that starts with you. That starts with pointing the finger on me. Let's look at me. Okay, where am I weak at? Where is it that I am, or what is it about me that is causing me to have up walls? Have I been hurt? Have I been betrayed? Have I been let down? Have I been rejected? Have people hurt me? Have people wronged me? If so, I need to start there, because what I've taken on and what has built and shaped me throughout the years will cause me to make the decisions that I am making. And so if I am making decisions that are hurting me, that are affecting others, then I need to come through and figure out why. Where did this start at? It's okay to take inventory. It's okay to address the root cause. It's okay to look from within, because it has to start somewhere. And as you begin to evaluate self and you're honest with yourself, and you can see, man, okay, I see where that fear came in at, because sometimes people don't realize that they're dealing with fear, and fear can be displayed in so many different ways. This person may have walls because they're afraid. This person may cut people off quickly because they're afraid. This person may be quick to cut somebody out because they're afraid. This person may, be easily gullible. They may be naive. They may be someone who you can easily get because they're afraid. Addressing the fear is a big thing. Addressing the fear, being at a place where you say, no, I do these things. I make these decisions, because sometimes people make decisions out of fear. Why did you make that decision over there? Well, it's really because I'm afraid. I'm afraid of being rejected. I'm afraid of being taken advantage of. And so when I can acknowledge that, man, I do these things, and you need to respect the fact that the decisions that you are making are going to affect you in a negative way if you are making bad decisions. And you can't make solid and good decisions outside of God. If you're thinking, well, I make all kinds of good decisions, you have to lay down your perspective, because there is a way that seems right unto men, but the end thereof is death. There's a way that may make sense to you, and you may have been living this way for a long time, but if there are underground issues, I don't want to say surface level, under the surface issues, like deep issues, deep problems down below, then eventually what's there is going to spill out. Eventually what's there is going to come out, but it's going to come out in pride. It's going to come out in depression. It's going to come out in suicidal thoughts. It's going to come out, or suicide attempt. It's going to come out in fear. It's going to come out in anger. It's going to come out in frustration. Why am I always angry? Why am I so aggressive? Why am I so violent? Why am I so impatient? What is wrong with me? Is it drugs that I need? Is it a therapist that I need? Is it a doctor that I need? What is it that I need? Many people have those questions. What is wrong with them? Why do I hear voices? Why can I keep friends? Why can I keep people around? Every time someone starts to get close to me, I push them away. What is wrong with me? Maybe I'm not meant to be alive. Maybe I'm not meant to be here. Maybe God made a mistake. Why do I feel like I don't have an identity? Why do I feel like I don't know what I am and who I am? Am I a boy? Am I a female? Am I a male? What am I? What do I want to be? All of these different things a person has to reckon with on the inside when they've gone through the experiences of life. Whatever your experience was, it has caused you to become a certain way. You don't know that when people go out and get all of those piercings and all of those tattoos, and they're doing things to their hair, people are battling on the inside. People are fighting on the inside with the issues of life, the sin of this life. And when they don't know how to properly deal with that, then that's going to be expressed through what life has to offer. That's going to be expressed with be your own kind of beauty. That's going to be expressed with being beautifully broken. Just put on makeup and cover it up. That's going to be expressed with cutting their hair, shaving one side, getting plaits on one side, dyeing the other side. That's going to be expressed with getting all of these body piercings and all of these tattoos and calling it body art. That's going to be expressed in various ways. Being promiscuous, being loose, feeling like you have to dress like a harlot or a prostitute because you're hurting on the inside. You're broken on the inside. You have problems. You aren't the problem. And unless you acknowledge that things aren't going to get better, you are going to remain in a place of bondage. And you will carry that victim's mentality all the way to the lake of fire. All the way to the lake of fire. You have to be honest with yourself. And you need to respect the fact that it starts with you. It starts with the person in the mirror looking at you and acknowledging, man, I am messed up and I need God. I need God. People need God. And I was telling my son, I said, this is why we need Jesus. This is why we go to church, because we need God. Because without God, we are messed up. We are busted and disgusted. Without God, I don't know what I'll do. I don't even want to know. But I tell him all the time, like, see, this is why I need God. Because without God, in me dwells no good thing. You need to understand, in you dwells no good thing. Jeremiah tells us about the heart. And we know this scripture. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. In you dwells no good thing. That's why you need the Spirit of God on the inside. You need God to make you good. You need God to break the chains off of you. You need God to renew your mind, because the mind that you got from the world isn't a good one. The perspective that you picked up from the world is the wrong perspective. Let God be true and every man a lie. We need to acknowledge that, man, everything that I was taught, that I learned, was wrong. I learned the wrong things about life. Unless you grew up in a Christian household, then that's different. But the majority is, most of us did not grow up in a Christian home. And so a lot of what we was taught was not good. And that's the stuff that we have to undo. And that can be hard, because sometimes a person can have trauma. A person can have those painful memories. And sometimes that can bring a sense of security for a person. You understand what I'm saying? A person can want to hold on to that part of their life where they were messed up, where they were mistreated, where they were mishandled. They can hold on to that part instead of them letting it go. That can bring a sense of security, because they may feel, although this messed them up, it has now become a part of them. No, but although that happened to me, that has become a part of me. And so letting that part of me go can be very painful. You know, I've never got heart surgery, praise God, and I pray I never have to get it. That's a very painful operation. You're dealing with a very vital and delicate organ, the heart. The heart. Open heart surgery, that surgeon has to go in and he has to remove the intruder. He has to remove the infected. He has to remove the things that should not be there, that's causing more trauma, more damage to the heart. He has to go in and he has to remove everything there. But that's not an easy process. It's not an easy surgery. When God has to go into our hearts, it can be painful, because he's going to touch those delicate, those sentimental parts of your heart that may make you uncomfortable. It may make you even cry. Sometimes combing through life circumstances and going through I'm not saying to relive it all over again, but sometimes going back to that place can be very painful. It can be scary. I know, because I've been there, but the best feeling ever is knowing that you have real closure. The best feeling ever is knowing that you now have real freedom from that thing. That thing no longer has a hold on you. That stronghold that once held you, that part of your heart that was left unloved and just never touched, that part of you now that you've now exposed to God can now have real closure, can now have real healing. Those wounds on your heart can be healed. It can be mended. God can mend your heart. He likes a broken and a contrite heart. He says he will not despise. When you come to God humbly, when you come to God ready to give him your heart, he's not going to put you to an open shame. He's not going to scold you. He's not going to condemn you. He's not going to make you feel as though you were the worst person ever for allowing yourself to go through that situation. No, he likes a contrite heart, a broken and a contrite heart, because he knows how to fix those things. No, bring that to me. I know exactly what to do with that. He knows exactly what to do with your heart. He knows exactly how to handle it. He can handle it well. Many of you don't want to give your heart to anything or anyone because your heart has been broken so many times. And if we can be honest, you know, it's your fault as to why your heart has been broken. You put yourself in those circumstances. You opened the door to sin. You know, you let the devil in. You gave yourself, you gave your emotions to that person there. You gave yourself and your emotions to that circumstance, and it broke you. It destroyed you. It left you high and dry. You gave yourself to that person, and they took advantage. Yeah, you opened your heart, you let your guard down, you let your walls down to that person or to that thing, and it took advantage, and that hurt it. That's painful. Life can be very painful. Life can be very, overwhelming. It can break a person. It can break a person. And most people out in the world, they're broken. They're broken. And they are learning ways to go around the problem. And the problem is them. The world is teaching them to put the blame on others, cast the blame on others. Why don't you find a coping mechanism to deal with what you feel? You feel those emotions. You feel, bipolar at times. You feel paranoid at times. Why don't you just take these drugs? The world is giving people temporary solutions to their problem, but the problem is self. The problem is the fact that you like sin. You like sin. You like you. You love you. That's why you don't mind doing business with you, because you spend, some people, again, the world, some people only like dealing with them. They only like dealing with them. Listen, I don't do people. I only do me. I've seen people put up posts. I've seen people have that as their little bio on Facebook. I just do me and no one else. Yeah, you like you. You hurt you. You lie to you. You manipulate you. You deceive you. You put you in circumstances that are risky. Yeah. I've seen people put that in their bio. I only do me. I don't do people. I don't do females. I don't do males. I don't do people, period. I only do me, because you love you and you don't mind putting yourself in circumstances that are going to hurt you later on down the line, because you love you, and your world is teaching you to only love you. Your world is teaching you that you can do bad all by yourself. I don't need nobody to mess up my life. My life is already messed up. I don't need anyone to break my heart. My heart is already broken. And when you can get to a place where you said, I'm tired of being sick and tired. I'm tired of these broken relationships. I'm tired of giving my heart to people. I'm tired of people betraying me, rejecting me, taking advantage of me. I am tired of me putting myself in these circumstances, because you put yourself in these circumstances. Nobody, has a gun to your head and is holding you hostage. You take your 2 little feet and you take yourself over there, and now you're in this situation. You take yourself over there, and now you're in this situation. You have a decision to make. Are you going to take that on? Are you going to walk directly through that door of destruction? Or are you going to get to a place where you say enough is enough? It starts with me. Becoming an interruption is a very powerful breaking, because what you are doing, you are interrupting the years of curses. You are interrupting the years of cycles and patterns that has followed your family line, the generations on your family. When you are an interruption, you are interrupting the curses, the sin, the lifestyles that has been set for your life. You are interrupting it. You are breaking that. You're interrupting the process by saying yes to God and no to sin. Most people, they don't want to interrupt nothing. They don't want to change anything. People want change, but they don't want to be the change. They don't want to be the change. They don't want to be the solution. It starts with you. What if you begin to stop lying to yourself and you were honest with yourself? It was said the other day, and this was a very powerful key for me. If I can beat me, I can beat anything. If I can get over me, if I can conquer me, because I'm telling you, the biggest enemy isn't Satan. The biggest enemy isn't the devil. The biggest enemy is the inner me, the inner you. That's your biggest enemy. You are going to make decisions based on what you believe about your life, about God, about your world, about the enemy, about good, about evil. You. About what you think is necessary. Maybe you don't think that it's necessary to start with me. Maybe you are someone, no, the problem is everyone else. Okay, you're going to stay at that victim's mentality. That person is going to continue living their life. They're not worried about whether or not you forgave them. They don't want to be forgiven. They're not focused on the fact that they did X, Y, and Z to you back in 19 whatever, back in 2000 whatever. They're gone on about their lives, and they found ways to cope with life, while you're left high and dry with the issue, while you're left high and dry with the memories, while you're left high and dry with the trauma. Yeah, and you got to decide, well, what am I going to do? Because the pain is there and the pain is real. God if I can say, God, he is a healer. He is a healer. He is a deliverer. He is a healer and he is a deliverer. Nothing is too hard for God. Nothing is too big. Nothing is too small. Nothing is too grand. You are not messed up of a person that God can't fix you. You are not too messed up of a person that God cannot heal you. You are not too messed up of a person that God cannot change you. You are not too messed up of a person that God cannot forgive you. It doesn't matter what they told you. You'll never be nothing. You'll never be a full woman. You'll never be a full man. It doesn't matter what they've told you. You are not too messed up of a person for God to handle. His hand is not too short that he cannot reach down and save. It doesn't matter how messed up, how busted and disgusted, how bad the trauma was, how deep the scars are. That's nothing for God. You just got to be willing to go to him and acknowledge the fact, no, I am messed up. If you pretend to be okay, then you can be at the doctor's office. You can be in need of some serious medical attention. But if you've convinced yourself that, you know what, doc, I'm actually okay. And it's clearly obvious. It's clearly obvious that you are bleeding. It's clearly obvious that you are in pain, that you are in need of medical attention. But if you've convinced yourself, because there are people out here with bleeding hearts, and that's being displayed in all kinds of ways. Man, that person is broken. Man, that person is torn. If you convince yourself that you are okay the way that you are, then the doctor is going to let you leave the doctor's office. Although they can see, but no, you need medical attention. Excuse me. Jesus says out of his mouth, I came not for those that are whole, but I came for the sick. I came for those that are in need of a physician. Are you in need of a physician today? Because if you are, I have just the right person for you. But if you are going to lie to yourself and continue lying to yourself and say, well, you know, I actually feel okay, Sister Liberty. I've learned to go through life. I've learned to just get over things. I've learned to just move on. That's most people's story. They've learned to just move on. But they moved on in bondage. They've moved on with a victim's mentality. They moved on, but if you never deal with that, that's going to remain, and that's going to show up in all kinds of forms. That's going to show up as pride. Again, that's going to show up as being closed off to people, cutting people off, burning bridges. That's going to show up in all kinds of forms. That's going to show up in a form of shopping. Why are you a shopaholic? That's going to show up in a form of getting into magic and getting into telecards and burning sage and palm reading. That's going to show up in that form. That's going to show up in all this online dating, and that's going to show up in going to the casino. That's going to show up in, you know, getting into some crazy dark stuff that I won't mention. But if you convince yourself that you are okay, if you convince yourself that you are whole, you don't need help. I don't need your God. Where was God when I was being beat? I don't need your God. Where was God when I was being raped? Where was God when he did that to me? Where was God when they did that to me? Where was God when she did that? Where was God when my father left? Where was God when my mom left? Where was God when that happened? If you continue with that mindset, that's the victim's mentality. Where was God? If you just take a moment to address self, which is the problem, then you would be able to see and understand that God was there the whole time. What should have taken you out, what should have completely broken you, God was there. That situation should have been worse. That should have killed you. But God was there, and God let you go through that so that eventually you could surrender to him. But instead, you've allowed your heart to become callous. You've allowed your heart to become hardened because you're angry at God. You're mad at God. You're mad at life. You didn't sign up for this. You didn't ask to be here. You never signed up for your life to go the way that it went. But it went the way that it went. And now you're this messed up person. Now you're this confused person. And you hide behind the makeup. You hide behind the false identity. You're a male, but you dress like a female because you're hiding behind that. Sometimes it's easier to hide behind the mask because it hides all of the scars and the pains everything that's underneath the mask, everything that's underneath the false identity. It hides all of that. And if you can come outside of that, then you can be free for real. If you can deal with the hurt and the fact that no, someone took advantage of you, someone hurt you, someone took something from you that should have never happened to you. And again, sometimes life can be really messed up. Meaning we go through things that we should have never gone through. But even in that, God he was still there. Even when it didn't feel like he was. When he takes you back to that moment, that very moment when he lets you see, man, this person that did this to you, they were about to do this, but I kept them from doing that. When you were in that car and it flipped over, you were supposed to go into the canal, but it missed it. You were supposed to fly out, but it just so happens that although you normally don't wear a seatbelt, I put it in your mind to put on a seatbelt that day. Although you were headed down this direction, I put it in your mind to go left. So what do you mean, where was God? God was there. Yeah, he was there the whole time. But if you're going to be blinded by being a victim, then you're going to overlook the fact that God was the one there the whole time. When the matter should have turned out worse, God was there. So having a heart of humility will position us to get the freedom that we need from God. He says he resists the proud. If you're going to be prideful about this, if you're going to come on a victim's mentality like Cain, then I can't show you anything because you're going to be too blinded by your emotions to see the fact that I'm trying to free you. I'm trying to liberate you. But he gives more grace to the humble. God, listen, take it. I'm messed up. I made some bad decisions. I had to tell God some years ago, can you just take my life? Because apparently I don't know what I'm doing with it. I don't know what I'm doing with it. I'm trying, but I can't drive this vehicle. I can't drive this plane. I can't drive this ship. I have no clue what I'm doing. Many of you need to let go of the wheel because you don't know what you're doing with your life. You're trying to navigate your life. You're trying to steer your life, but all you're doing is steering it into a pit of destruction. You don't know what you're doing. You want to be in control of your life. You don't want no one else to control your life. You don't want God to be in control of your life. You feel as though you're doing a very good job, although you're driving in a vehicle that's literally on fire. You're driving in a vehicle that's literally on fire. The Lord is saying, pull over. No, God, I want to keep going. Pull over. God, I know what I'm doing. Pull over. No, God, I got this. Pull over. No, God, where were you 10 miles back? Where were you 20 miles back? I know what I'm doing. The Lord is trying to save many of you from you because that's what he did for me. He saved me from me. Self-destruction is real. People are self-destructing because they don't know what else to do. It doesn't look like that, but most people cannot see that they're destroying themselves more than helping themselves. When people have to turn to drugs, when people have to turn to sex, when people have to turn to gambling, when people have to turn to witchcraft, when people have to turn to dating and, masturbation and pornography, when people have to turn to those things to cope with the pain, to cope with the under issue, when people have to do those things, that is self-destruction because the things that you have turned to cope with, to help, is not helping, but it's doing more damage than good. And it may not feel that way in the moment because pleasure feels good. Pleasure feels good. Most people are self-destructing. Yeah, it's just a countdown. It's only a matter of time before you take your last breath. It's only a matter of time before you step into the door of suicide. People are self-destructing because life is hard. Life is hard. And so God is trying to save us from us. He's trying to rescue us from us. When God saved me, he didn't just save me from the world. He saved me from me because he saw the path that I was headed on. Man, if I don't save this person, they're going to self-destruct. If I don't save this person, they're going to run themselves right into the ocean. Let me take the wheel because you don't know what you're doing. And most people are fighting with God for the will. And God is saying that if you don't let me take the will, you're going to drive yourself right off a cliff. But no, God, I know what I'm doing. I've been in this body my whole life. I know me more than anybody. And God has to let people get the will because they're unwilling to let it go and give God control. But they want their lives to be different. They want their matters, their problems to be handled and to be solved. And unless you give God the will, unless you surrender to God, unless you deal with the problem, the root issue, then things are never going to get better. Life isn't going to get better. I don't know what they're telling you and what hope they're giving you in the movies and these series on Netflix and these sitcoms, whatever hope they're trying to give you. The reality is, if you don't change your ways, if you don't lay down your victim's mentality, if you don't humble yourself, then you'll never be free. You'll never be free. And suicide is not the way. Suicide is not the way. Got many people crying out for their souls to be free. And the only way for their souls to be free, for you to be free, is to surrender. If you never surrender, then you're going to remain in bondage. You're going to remain in your bondage, and you will continue throughout life learning how to maneuver. People are doing a very good job, and they're taking it to the grave. People have died in bondage. They've died with their idols. They've died with the strongholds. They've died with the curses because they were unwilling to deal with themselves. They were unwilling to be honest with themselves. If I never think that I'm sick, if I never think that I have a problem, then I'm never going to seek and search for a solution. What do you mean problem? I don't have any problems. You have problems written all over you, but if you think that you are okay the way that you are, most people are okay with the way that they are. They lie to themselves because, again, it's just you. It's just self. It's just self. And you're not going to go back and forth with yourself when it comes to that. You're going to lie to yourself because you already want to believe something that's not true. Most people are going to go to the grave in their bondage with their secrets, with their curses, with their trauma, with their experiences, with their problem. And they're going to open their eyes in a bad place called hell. Yeah. There is a way out. There is a way of escape. There is a way to be free from the conditions of this life. There's a way to be healed. I'm telling you, God has healed me from things that I can't even communicate, because the depths of his love, the depths of God's power, it goes deep. When he comes and he reaches his hand all the way down to the depths of the heart, and he pulls out those parts that have been bruised, he pulls out those parts that have been broken, he pulled out the parts that have been hit hard and cut, slashed, and he performs heart surgery, and he gives you a new heart. He gives you a clean heart. The old heart was too filthy. It was too filthy. It was too broken. He gives you a clean heart. He makes the heart new. He revives the heart. Jesus revives. Yeah, he revives. But if you want to remain dead, if you want to remain a victim, then, you know, each and every one of us, we are going to make decisions based on what we believe. And that's the bottom line. That's truth. You and I are going to make decisions based on what we believe. And that's what every single person on the face of the planet is doing. That are conscious and aware of being able to make a decision. I'm not talking about a little baby. I'm talking about someone who is fully capable of knowing their left from their right, up from down, day from night. That's what I'm talking about. So may God give you the ears to hear this message, to hear this teaching. May he give you a heart to perceive, and may he give you the eyes to see. Many of you are blinded and you think you can see, yet your sin remains. So we don't want to be prideful. We don't want to think that we know it all and that we have it all together, because God leaves people like that to themselves, and they stumble and they fall. There are a lot of people who think that they know what they're doing with their lives, and they're not doing anything but driving it straight into hell. God have mercy. So I love all of you out there, and I pray that you have a heart to really receive this message in Jesus' name.